everyone. Today we shall be talking about the three components of personality according to Sigmund Freud: the id, the ego, and the superego. According to Freud, although each of these components has unique features, they interact to form a whole, and that interaction makes a relative contribution to one's behavior. Now, let's try to discuss the first component, which is the id. According to Sigmund Freud, the id is the unconscious part of your personality. And actually, a child, according to him, is born with the id. So it's basically the childish and the impulsive part of you that just does what it wants or gets what it wants without thinking of the consequences. So for instance, a baby is hungry. So the id wants food or milk. So the baby would cry until such time that he or she is given with what he or she wants. Now, nothing else really matters to id except the satisfaction of its own needs or of its own desires, regardless of reality or regardless of the consequences. If the id wants something, it must get it no matter what. So this explains why a baby, di ba? Papansin natin, a baby does not have a sense of time. The baby does not mind the people around him. The baby would cry any time of the day or any time of the night kapag gutom siya, kapag uncomfortable siya, kapag wet siya or kapag sleepy siya, at hindi niya kino-consider yung nanay niyang pagod or yung tatay niyang natutulog. Because if the id wants something, it wants it fast. Now, ngayon, paano naman nag-work ang id sa mga kagaya nating medyo may edad na, matatanda na? So, gaya ngayon, meron po tayong mga modules na ginagawa at tinutulungan din natin yung mga anak natin gumawa ng kanya-kanyang mga modules. So, the id would give us thoughts like, why would I make my module? I'm not even happy making my own module. It makes my life miserable. It makes my life difficult. I cannot do other things, more pleasurable things than modules. So the id would also put pressure in us and would tell us and would make us come up or do other more pleasurable activities than module making or answering of module. Like, oh, hindi, mag-ano ka na lang, mag-login ka na lang sa social media sites or manood ka na lang ng pelikula sa Netflix kasi maraming mga magaganda doon. So if we give into that, if we give into the need of the id, then hindi ka talaga gagawa ng module mo, hindi ka talaga magsasagot ng module mo, manunood ka na lang ng The Queen's Gambit if that's the case, alright? So, another example, naki-birthday ka, okay? At nakita mo ang sarap ng mga handa nila, paborito mo lahat ng mga nakahain sa mesa. Pero you notice na yung handa niya ay parang hindi sapat para sa lahat ng umattend sa birthday celebration na yon. Pero dahil paborito mo lahat ang nakahanda doon, your id would tell you to eat everything that you like. The id would tell you na magpakabusog ka hanggang kaya mo. The id would tell you na kuha ka lang ng food, kuha ka lang ng kuha ng food. Wag mong wag mong isipin kung may kakainin pa yung iba o wala na. So that's the id would want you to do, to eat a lot, to eat whatever you want to eat, even if other people might not have something to eat later on. So, importante para sa kanya, you give into this desire, you give into this need, okay? So, kung durbab ka, madim napigilan ti kinadurbab mo, kain ka na lang ng lamon. So, kahit na maraming nakakita sa'yo, wala ka nang pakialam sa kanila. Because that's what it does. It operates on the pleasure principle. It always increase pleasure, but it wants to increase pleasure rather, and it wants to decrease pain. So, kung pleasurable yung pagkain sa'yo, pakainin ka niya ng pakainin, tapos pag later on, feeling mo busog ka, matabang-mataba ka na, kailangan mo nang burn ng konting calories at mag-exercise sana, sasabihin ng id sa'yo, huwag kang mag-exercise. Mamaya pagkatapos mo mag-exercise, sasakit ang muscles mo, sasakit ang likod mo, manghihina ka. So yun, it increases pleasure, but it decreases pain. Alright? So it literally responds to the basic urges, it responds immediately to needs and the desires regardless of the consequences. That's why according to Freud, the id is illogical, it's unreasonable, it's primitive. Alright? Next, what is ego naman? So sabi nila, habang lumalaki yung bata, the child learns to mingle with the people around him and he learns how to relate more to the environment that he is in, and that he is directly influenced as well by the outside factor or by the external world. So dito daw, it's where ego develops. Because according to Freud, the ego is the decision-making components of your personality. If the id operates on pleasure, the ego is the decision-making component. Okay? So let's go back to the answering of module. So if you have the ego, or if the ego is stronger than that of the id, di ba, you are torn between, do I have to do my module or mamaya ko nagagawin yan? So kapag sinabi ng id mo na wag mo nang gawin ang module mo, manood ka na lang ng TV, ang sasabihin naman sa'yo ng ego mo, you do your module, you answer your module because that is what you're supposed to do. That is the right thing to be done. Because if you will not answer the module, you will be reprimanded by your teachers or you will eventually fail. So the ego operates on the reality principle, and the ego helps you do things that are acceptable by the society. So doon sa birthday celebration, ang dami kang nakitang food pero hindi siya sapat para sa lahat ng dumalo sa birthday celebration na yon. Even if the id wants you to eat everything on the table, then the ego would say, no, you should not eat everything, kontrolin mo ang sarili mo kasi meron pang ibang kakain ng mga yan. Hindi lang ikaw ang bisita. Han kang agsupsuputon, tahan lang si Kati bisita. So that's basically what the id tells you, right? It helps you control your appetite and it helps you control your cravings for things. So the ego enables the person to control their impulses and to demonstrate self-control, and it helps a person decide on things basically because ang pipiliin niya lagi ay kung anong acceptable sa isang society. Alright? At ang last, ang superego. Ang superego naman daw, kung ang id ay ang desire, ang ego ay ang decision component, ang ego naman daw ay ang moralidad, your morality. So your superego controls the id's impulses and it persuades the ego na hindi lang dapat siya maging realistic, dapat maging moralistic din siya at dapat mag-strive siya to be perfect. Okay? So the superego consists of two systems. We have the conscience and that of the ideal self. Yung conscience mo can punish the ego through causing feelings of guilt. So, for instance, kapag ang ego would give in to the desires of the id, the superego make the person feel guilty or feel bad about sa nangyari. So, ang ideal self naman, ito naman yung this creates an imaginary picture of how you ought to be, your aspirations, what are your aspirations, and how you're supposed to treat the people around you, and at the same time, how to behave well in the society where you belong. So if you do what superego wants, okay, it will reward you with pride. Yes, natapos kong gawin yung module ko, na-beat ko yung deadline, I'm so happy with myself, I'm so proud of myself because I did my module despite the fact that there are many temptations. Yon, it gives you the sense of pride. Pero kapag hindi ka sumunod sa sinasabi ng superego, it would give you the feeling of guilt. Oh my, I'm such a terrible student, I was not able to answer my module, I will eventually fail later on, sayang yung pinampabayad ng nanay ko sa tuition ko. That's it. Alright? It gives you the sense of pride once you follow what it wants, but it gives you the sense of guilt if you do otherwise. Okay? So yan yung trabaho ng superego. At ang superego, the ideal self and the conscience, it says they are largely determined in childhood from the inculcated parental values. So meaning, dito na naman nag-uugat ang lahat. It's really very important that parents are supportive of their kids, pero hindi naman yung masyadong mahigpit. Because rearing kids is like holding a very wet soap. Kapag sobrang higpit yung pagkakahawak mo ng basang sabon, hahanap yan ng way para makaalis dun sa pagkakahawak mo. But if you are holding the wet soap, gentle lang na may pagmamahal, then it will not find ways para makaalis sa pangangalaga mo. And that's basically the role of the parents. We have to love our kids enough to let them, love that is enough to let them grow, be happy, and be morally upright. Alright? So in summary, I would like to summarize that id is primitive, it's instinctual part of the mind kasi it talks about the drives, the desires, the wants. The superego operates on the moral conscience, on the morality or on the conscience, and the ego is the realistic part that mediates between the desires of the id and the desires of the superego. Okay, so my challenge to you is that how can you balance the three components of your personality? So you can share your thoughts by using the comment section below. Goodbye.